You are listening to Salty Believer Unscripted.
This is Salty Believer Unscripted. I'm Josiah Walker.
I'm Brian Kaplan.
And today we're talking about preaching. And I'm really excited because today we've got some special guests with us, Brian. We've got Jeremy Meeks and Robert Kinney from the Simeon Trust. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Hey, tell us a little bit about yourself as we get going this morning.
Sure. My name's Robert. I serve as the Director of Ministries of the Charles Simeon Trust, which I have done for 17 years. I also live in Vienna, Austria, where I serve in an Anglican church, trying to preach the word to a bunch of Austrian Anglicans.
Wait, what time is it there right now?
It is just after 5 in the evening.
You're at 5 in the evening. We're at 9 in the morning. And Jeremy, what time is it in Chicago?
I'm at 10. Yeah, I'm at 10 a.m. So I'm here in Chicago. I am the director of the Chicago course on preaching, which is a residential program training preachers. And I'm the host of Preachers Talk. And
Which is awesome.
Yeah. And serve a bunch of different pastors here in the Chicago area.
So before we can even jump into the questions we have for you guys, we have to confess that we have borrowed, in air quotes, your opening. The podcast that we're doing has been going for 12 years, and I heard Preachers Talk for the first time and not knowing I knew who David Helm was, but not knowing who you were, Jeremy, not knowing who the other players were. I didn't recognize any of the voices. I was like, oh, that's a great way to we're going to rob that. We're just going to take it and make it our own and act like we invented it. So thank you for that intro. Let's just get it. We're derailed. What is Simeon Trust? What's Simeon Trust?
Yeah, well, since Robert runs the whole deal, we'll ask Robert.
All right. Back on your intro thing just for a moment, there's a great quote about how great writers borrow from other writers. Good writers borrow from other writers. Great writers steal outright. So steal anything you want.
All
Steal
right.
it all.
So we're going to delete this podcast and start over, never confessing we took it from.
There you go.
There you go. Get it in editing.
Okay, what's Simeon Trust?
Simeon Trust is an organization that was founded by Dave Helm and Kent Hughes 21 years ago as a way of kind of trying to help recover a sense of biblical exposition and just greatly improve the landscape of expositional preaching in the U.S. It's modeled after a British organization called the Proc Trust that has longer ago roots. But that's what it is. We're just trying to help preachers preach better.
And it seems like you're having success because the folks that I see that said, oh, I'm familiar with Simeon Trust seem to be preaching better. I will say I've been going through your online courses. I've only done 2 so far, done the argument and the foundations. And they've both been incredibly helpful. And then the podcast has been really helpful too.
Good.
Yeah, I'm really excited because, like Brian said, he's taken a couple courses. I just started the Foundations online course, First Principles. That's the one.
Yeah.
But tell us about those courses, because you've got workshops, you've got the Chicago course, you've got the online courses. What are kind of the differences between those?
Sure. I'll take the first 2. Jeremy, you come in with the Chicago course. We've got 3 kind of major initiatives. The workshops are 3-day long events, sort of continuing education for guys who are already preaching, women too, in our women's workshops. We're doing about 120 of those a year in like 40 different countries.
Oh, wow.
So it's about helping people who already have responsibility for preaching to kind of improve the craft. Our metaphor for it is spring training. So gather for a few days, get your fundamental skills back in shape and go at it for another year.
So the assumption in that is that people do have those real basic foundational aspects of preaching. You're not building those blocks in those courses. You're actually, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes and no. Part of spring training for a pro ball player is actually relearning fundamentals. So even in the workshops, we're going to go over some of our foundational convictions, even some of our fundamental skills, not because we don't think people already know how to do some of this stuff, but just because it's good to be reminded to have those skills sharpened and those convictions deepened, even on an annual basis, because we get lazy. I mean, you guys preach, you know what it's like.
Do you have people come back? So do you have someone do it and they come back 3 or 4 years later? Yeah, that's a pretty normal thing.
Yeah. Just like pro ball players come to spring training every year, we hope guys come at least once a year.
And what is it in the middle of the week? Because obviously these guys have preaching responsibilities.
It varies place to place. Sometimes it's Tuesday to Thursday. Sometimes it's Wednesday to Friday. Sometimes it's Thursday to Saturday. That's location by location, what works for the guys.
What do we got to do to twist your arm to get you to come a little more to the west, like Utah, Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, something? We'll talk offline.
Yeah. Invitations. We always respond to invitations.
And then you have the online courses. You got the online courses, right? And I'm doing those, but tell our listeners a little more about those.
Yeah. So the online courses are taking video from workshops mostly, supplementing it with some things and trying to deliver it online in an asynchronous way. So it's pitched a little bit broader. It's something that you can take your lay elders through. It's something you can take your missionaries through. It's something you can take your Sunday school teachers through. But the idea there is that you, as a pastor of a church, are able to use some of those tools that you pick up in a workshop and start using them with your people and getting them into the mix as well. So that's really what they're for.
I found those incredibly helpful because we're in a place, at least Josiah and I don't know where the rest of our listeners are, all over the place, but we're in a place where a lot of this stuff is not available. The resources are very limited. Right. And so for me, it was great to go, hey, here's something that I can plug in with and pick up on. So, I found it very helpful. Robert, the stuff in the argumentation, all that has been incredibly helpful just to have access to it. So good. I like it. I like it a lot. And then I don't know anything other than what I see on Facebook about the Chicago course.
Yeah. So
help me understand that.
New initiative. So we're in our 3rd year right now. Essentially, the Chicago course exists to try to bridge the gap between either just straight up desire to be a preacher or the gap that exists between seminary training and regular pulpit ministry, just week in and week out. And so we're trying to help preachers, either aspiring preachers or those who've been trained and are ready to go, to kind of get many at-bats, as many reps as possible to get into the weekly preaching ministry, because preaching is very hard. And especially regular preaching is very hard. And so at the course, you'll do over 200 worksheets, kind of preparing the basic, fundamental blocks. At a workshop, for example, you do 2. So 100 times more. And then you'll actually preach at least 30 times. And if you take the optional opportunities, you'll have up to 50 times of preaching. So essentially it functions like a pressure cooker. That all happens in 30 weeks.
Oh, wow.
If you take it full time or part-time over 2 years, they'll take Monday, Tuesday 1 year and Thursday, Friday the next year. But the whole idea is to pack a lot of training into a small amount of space that is 100% focused on proclaiming what you are learning how to read well.
Do you have a plan to take that? Is it only in Chicago? It's called the Chicago course, but is there going to be like an Argentina course and a whatever course, or is the Chicago course going to be in Argentina, or what's the plan with that? Or what's the hope?
Yeah. So the hope is to develop something here that can be a residential model for other places, so that we could have something in Africa, so that we could have something in Latin America that would be maybe slightly different, contextually appropriate to where it is, but always focused on being smaller, residentially focused, and cohort based, so that you're training with fellow ministry leaders for a lifetime of ministry, just kind of getting a lot of stuff, hopefully creating great friendships and all kinds of stuff.
Who's, I see, Jeremy, you're involved in that, but who's involved in that as kind of either the coaches, instructors, who's really pressing that? So if you were to take it somewhere else, would it be a group of people like that elsewhere, or what does that look like? Yeah, so we don't know what it would look like elsewhere necessarily, but here in Chicago, what we're developing, myself and K. Edward Copeland are the primary instructors of the course. And then we've got people like Dave Helm, people like Robert Kinney, and a host of other people coming in to
train preachers. And the nice part is they're all practitioners. So we're getting guys who've been in the game for a long time who are coming in and training future ministry leaders.
Mostly practitioners.
Mostly practitioners.
Scott Hafman and Paul House each do something each year, but it's guys like Juan Sanchez, Michael Lawrence. The students spent a night with Mark Dever a couple months ago. I mean, there's a good amount of kind of high level working guys coming through that are able to make a 1 or 2 day contribution.
Right.
That's so awesome. I had a mentor tell me once, repetition is the motor of learning. It's amazing how much better my preaching got. When I first started out, it was like a couple times a year. And then when I started doing it more regularly, I'm like, hey, okay, I think I'm getting this. So
relearning hey, I've got 2 sermons this year when you're new. I'm so excited. I forgot how I did it last time. It was so long ago. I have to start over.
The metaphor we use is you're not going to get very strong going to the gym once a month. You're going to be better off going a couple times a week, right?
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, this ministry seems kind of multifaceted and stuff, but why do you guys feel like this is so necessary or needed in today's world?
I get 20 years ago, when David Helm was going to reclaim this, but I'm just kidding. Do you feel like it's still the same from when he started, or is it morphed to something else? What's the necessity here today?
The battles are different, right? So even 25 years ago, you're still coming out of the battles over like inerrancy. Now we're talking about a lot of other things, most of which have to do with contextualization. So I think the battles are a little bit different, but the solution is still the clear, potent proclamation of God's word. So what the particular pitfalls are have probably changed a bit, but not that much.
Is the course pretty much the same as it's been for 20 years? I mean, same principles.
The workshops, because I mean the course has been around a couple of years. The online courses haven't been around a lot longer.
The workshops and the training.
Yeah, the workshops. I mean, they're not exactly the same. I hope we've gotten better at it.
Right.
I mean, the principles of these things, the foundational pieces.
So by and large, yes. Things like reading a text in its context or understanding the structure of a text, those have been around. I mean, those didn't originate with us. Those are a couple thousand years old. That's a couple thousand years old, right? Like that's how you read. We have over the last few years started to focus more on some of the presentational things because contextualization is such an issue now, whichever side of the spectrum you're coming at it from, it's such an issue. We're starting to focus a little bit more on the kind of rhetoric persuasion type aspects of it. So awesome. We keep evolving too.
Yeah, and the thing is, so while the battles in the U.S. might be different, I mean, like Robert said, we're doing this in 40 different countries around the world. And what's so funny is that some of the kind of critiques of expositional preaching that are given by some people in this country we're kind of proof is in the pudding. It's like these very basic principles are in play around the world, and people are benefiting from it from very different language, cultural backgrounds, because it's really just, I mean, what we do is pretty simple. It's like, how do you read well? And then how do you speak well about what you read?
For sure. True. So how did you guys get involved in this ministry?
I was Dave Helm's intern at his church in 2002.
He just sucked you in and never let you go, huh?
Yeah. Right. And when I graduated, it was a good job offer.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah. That's a good argument for guys doing internships. Go do internships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to promise you're going to get a job out of it, but honestly, learning from Dave, sitting under his preaching, learning from him, how could you pass that up? So
right. Clearly, like you hear in the podcast, you hear in the training, I think you can even sort of pick it out in like his preaching book, which is the best of that Building Healthy Churches series. I think you can pick up how much he got from the guys before him too, and how much he just took that, internalized it, pours it back out. It's so great. You feel like you just have all these other voices in there coming through that conduit. It's great. So that would have been a great internship. I mean, it would have been great. Yeah. How about you, Jeremy?
Well, so my story in brief is that I started appropriating material of Simeon Trust to run my own rogue workshops as a missionary in Nicaragua. Then eventually, because my wife said I should say sorry and ask if I could actually do that, said sorry and asked if I could actually do that. And then through a freak chance of God's providence, ended up becoming the lead instructor at a workshop in Mexico with Robert. And essentially there was nobody else to do the work in Spanish that Robert kind of knew. So I was kind of I might have been the bottom of the barrel, but I was the only one standing. So I did, that one workshop expanded into 4, and then that just kept growing, and the work took off in Latin America. And so I oversaw all that work. And then I was asked to come do this in Chicago.
And then
which you said no to first, by the way.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I wasn't going to bring that up. But yeah, I said no first. because I wasn't convinced at that time that my church was ready to leave. I was a senior pastor in Nashville, and the church for Simeon Trust has always been the most important thing that we do. We only do this work for the sake of the church. And I wasn't convinced that it was ready to go, even though I was convinced that God put me on earth to do something like the Chicago course. And so by God's incredible humor, the whole program got put on hold for a year. The church kind of found its way to a place where I could leave it. And here I am.
Here you are. And you're doing the podcast. Just really quickly, for somebody who does not listen to that podcast, but listen to this one. By the way, if you listen to this podcast, that one's like a much better, that's a great podcast. You should listen to that one. They think like, anyway, tell us about the podcast just in brief.
So, very briefly, all we're trying to do is talk about different elements of preaching, kind of narrow in on one topic for 20-25 minutes, and be as practical and as helpful from 3 guys who've been in the game for a while, from different kind of backgrounds and perspectives, but just who are all on the same team and trying to help preachers out.
I would give it this kind of an endorsement. If you are new, you're hoping to be a preacher, you know nothing about preaching, that's an easy, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever. That's an easy process. If you just go back to the beginning, you'll actually walk through tons of aspects of how to think about preaching and what to do with illustration, and how about this, and what about conclusions, and what about, that's a really helpful way to get started. But it is a podcast that's in brief, so you probably are eventually going to want to jump onto an online course or look at some of the other things that are good for Chicago. Go to the Chicago course.
It's been really beneficial. I started back at the beginning because Brian found it first, was listening to it. So I went back. I listened to like 8 of them in a row while I was cleaning the church building the other day. But I ended up with some PTSD because you guys started talking about COVID and all that again. And all,
right.
Because it's way in the back.
I was just really walking through that again.
But I do remember that. Like, what's going to happen here with COVID? Don't go there. Don't go there.
But no, it's an awesome podcast. We appreciate that.
So we're kind of running out of time here. I wish we would have set up 2 podcasts with you. First of all, you guys are all over the place with the Preacher's Talk. So you should be able to find that with no problem, right? Everything that you guys do on the web, is everything on the website? What's the website, first of all? Not for the Simeon Trust.
Yeah, SimeonTrust.org. Most of what we do is on there. Some of our workshop locations are obviously in secure places, so we don't advertise all of those. But the online courses are all there, and most of the workshops should be accessible there as well.
SimeonTrust.com?
.org.
SimeonTrust.org. Now that we've said it 4 times, everybody's got it figured out.
.com will get you there too. It's fine.
Okay. So that's how you can find you guys online. And then the podcast is out there. Those are the 2 primary vehicles for getting plugged in with what you guys are doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't missed anything. And then just out of curiosity, how often does Dave Helm plug his preaching book in the course? Is he like just kind of leaving it around and, hey, I got this 9 Marks preaching book over here, you should read?
Oh, no, if anything, he's going around being like, you probably shouldn't read that.
I'm going around like, this guy needs to make this, like, all those little Building Healthy Churches books are like 105 pages. This needs to be like 250 pages. Like, he needs to turn this into a bigger thing. But that was that's how I found Simeon Trust. I read that and went, wait, this guy's got something to look at. I better look at it. And so that's fantastic.
Yeah, we get a lot of our poor execution of self-promotion from Dave, just so you know.
Hey, kind of a final question as we're kind of wrapping up. Just we like to ask pastors this all the time. Who's your favorite preacher? Who do you listen to?
Yeah. Who are the guys you listen to? You're going to say David Helm, but apart from David Helm and J. Edward Copeland, who do you guys listen to?
So Robert Kenny's my favorite preacher. No, just kidding. He's one of my favorites. No, but this is one of the things that Robert and some of our friends talk about a lot. Like my favorite preachers are Derek Buikema, Ramel Williams, Walter Carter III. My friends.
The guys
Those are
you
my
work
favorite
with, the
preachers.
guys you know.
Guys, yeah, who are up here in Chicago, and we're all working together, and we're all preaching as well as we can, giving each other feedback, and giving it to each other with some real sincerity. And it's a lot of fun to be able to work, to preach in their churches, to preach in each other's churches, and just see everybody grow. They're my favorite preachers. There's no question.
I love that.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that. How about
Yeah,
you, Robert?
we're pretty good with the radical candor when it comes to critiquing each other.
Yep.
Yeah. So the one I probably listen to most regularly is Ramel Williams Jr. He's at the Progression Church in South Chicago. They broadcast their services on Facebook, I think. But he's got such a way with words, and he's responsible in exposition, but his presentation is so wildly different than the world I'm in on a day-to-day basis. It just sparks my mind in ways that almost nothing else does.
I think you guys have Brian Chappell either in the, I don't know if he's a bonus material video in the argument online course or the online workshop, or in the first principles. I can't remember. He
does some stuff in the persuasion online course, and then he's done a bunch of workshops for us. Brian's a good dude.
Saying argument course the whole time, persuasion course.
Yeah,
man,
no
you
worries.
guys got to correct those wrong mistakes we're making.
Okay, I called first principles foundation.
I know, right?
But they said start there, so that's the foundation.
There you go.
So he said something though to what you guys are saying. He says, that it was in that thing, I think, anyway, he talked a lot about how much you need to spend more time with the people that you're preaching to, so you actually have an in-person, real relationship with them. So when you're bringing application and things, it's not, I've been in the office for 40 hours preparing the sermon. I thought that's really helpful for when we're preaching, but that's great for when you're connecting with other preachers. And that's why I'm watching this Chicago course, at least on Facebook, from a distance, and going, that looks really cool. And we've started this preacher's lunch here. We're in Salt Lake, so there's very few churches, probably much like when you're in other places like Argentina and stuff, where we don't have very many churches here. And then on top of that, there's even less number of expositional preachers that are actually preaching in these ways. And so we just started a preacher's lunch just so we could take turns. Somebody preach. Let's talk about it. What was the process? Let's ask some questions. And so we don't even provide the lunch, though. You got to bring your own lunch. We're like, you stop at a fast food restaurant and bring your Bible. Like,
no frills.
No frills. Yeah. I love that you guys are loving
that is awesome.
Preaching from others, right?
That is awesome. That is the right idea. If every even like medium city in the world did that, we'd be out of business, and I'd love it.
Well, it has to. So we're way out of time. We're way over time. But here's the challenge we're facing. Everybody wants swag. Or a lunch. It's called preacher's lunch, and you're not even feeding us. I'm like, no, we're feeding the word of God. It's being preached by a brother, and we're helping. So we intentionally eliminated all that, and also eliminates a lot of the people who want to come. I mean, it's ridiculous.
We only get serious listeners, that's for sure. So.
Right.
Well, hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
It's just been an honor.
Great beer. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So if you're listening to this podcast, go ahead and immediately go to Preacher's Talk. Check out that podcast. If you like this one, you're going to love that one. And if you're wanting to grow in your preaching and that, find SimeonTrust.org. It's going to help you tremendously. These are just two great resources.
Tremendously?
I'm making up words as I go.
Tremendously?
But it's helped us a ton. It'll help you a lot. So until next time.
Thank you for listening. Find more information at SaltyBeliever.com.